Hello there, and welcome back to another Vines from the Stars episodes. You guys have been really enjoying these episodes. I really enjoy making them. I used to do a lot of more gaming. I'm kind of taking a bit of break, and it's kind of the thing of where me doing video games is kind of draining me out because a lot of times I don't know what game I want to play, that kind of thing. So, we'll get back to that. I promise. Let the lazy Susan of ADHD and autism do its thing, okay? Anywho, I would also like to ask you to please like and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel. And please share this video out if you can. Every new view, every new person that gets to enjoy this is an okay thumbs up for me. So we left off our characters Thulk, Hex, Bear Silver, Nightshade, and No Name alongside Cyrus and our halfling rogue. I'll again have to try and see if I can get the name for that character. But in a bit of a predicament. They were caught up by an Astral Empire ambush. A squad of Astral Elves riding Driders had managed to board their ship, the player party in front of two of them. During the course of the battle, our friends attempt to do a few things. Thulk casts web on the riders in an attempt to try and tangle them up and keep them from moving. Nightshade used grease, making things a little bit more slippery for them. They were planning on trying to look at using heat metal, but of course the Drider Riders aren't wearing anything metal because, you know, elves. I hate those bastards. I'm kidding. But Hex tries to also use a ring that he found on the Nautilus ship. At first it summons an interesting scorpion-type monster that only survives for about a round, does a little bit of damage, and then disappears. He and the party continue to use spells and everything else they can throw at these guys, and it doesn't seem to be doing too much. Mainly because our rolls were just crap that evening. Hex tries once again to use the summoning ring. This time, it summons a CR-16 monster, a four-armed snake demon lady. One additional problem. He failed the will save, which would normally have allowed him to command this thing. So now, my character, Hex, has in front of him, about 5 feet in front of him, a very large CR-16 creature that wants him dead. And only him. Not even concerned about anything else, just him. While the rest of my party are fighting the Drider Riders, I am getting the snot kicked out of me by a four-armed, multi-weapon wielding snake woman. I am not kidding in this. I mean, literally, she almost completely downs me in a total of 2 rounds. Thulk helps keep me going a little bit, but I'm not looking too good. Thankfully, by the time the snake demon lady is disapparated back into her own realm, is about the same time that the Galactic Republic in our little campaign setting has arrived, driving the space elves off. It's at this point that our party starts to realize there's a bit of a problem. Our space galleon is now on fire, all of the crew are dead, the captain is dead, and we are standing on a burning hulk of what was once a ship. Our choices seem to be pretty much either try and jury-rig a lifeboat out of a bathtub or try and find some way to make something very explosive to get the Republic's attention or try to get someone's attention for help. As we try to make our way down to the bathtub, burning wood blocks our way, so we can't get to it. We're left with only one option. Trying to make some weird explosive that might get somebody's attention. Thulk and Nightshade work together to make some kind of weird concoction and launch it out to space. The explosion manages to get the attention of the Republic ship, which then sucks us up into its little docking bay, using magic to kind of spray down the flames as it drags us on up. We're greeted with what looks like a telescopic camera straight out of Jabba's palace that starts asking us questions. Namely, questions about who are we, what are we doing out here, and, well, you get the idea. My character, Hex, steps up and explains that they are actually refugees, that they had boarded aboard a vessel that had stopped to try and see if they could salvage something out of the Nautilus, but were immediately attacked by the Astral Elves. And we're asking for passage to Narok of Braille. He, of course, introduced himself as Sergeant Hex of the Tarkadian Empire, or more specifically, the Tarkadian Guard. It was a random Imperial name that I decided to come up with just for the sake of, giving more to Hex's background. Hex is a soldier by background, which might be weird for a Warlock Warforged, but it's the one I picked. Gave me all the stuff that I really wanted anyway. So the Republic decides to give us an escape pod. Their escape pod, by the way, looks like a barrel with a rocket engine strapped to the back of it, with just enough room for all of us to stand and nothing else. At this point, Bear Silver has reanimated a zombie, and, well, all 8 of us are now sardine canned into this barrel and then launched into space. During which time, Nightshade proceeds to repair what damage she can to poor Hex, after getting his head caved in by, well, Snake Lady Demon. Spending about a week as well as to make repair kits for Hex is, technically speaking, at this point, we kind of figured out that normal healing magic isn't technically supposed to work on Hex because he's a construct. Yeah, whatever. Anywho, as we finally get close to the Rock of Braille, the engine decides to detach us and send us into a holy crap level of spin, as the entire party proceeds to be glued to the walls. The barrel plunges right through into the Rock of Braille itself, all the way down to its lowest part of the layer. The Rock of Braille itself being essentially an asteroid with multiple cities built into it. It would be there that we would crash into the bottom layer, finding ourselves surrounded by the denizens of the lowest part of the Rock of Braille. As we climbed up, there were plenty of people looking at us, trying to see what in the hell had just landed on their front yard. With one person finally piping up after we explained the situation, "Oh, they got corkscrewed," as the entire crowd laughs and walks away. At this point, we're pretty much all confused. We have no idea what the hell is going on, only that we're now on an asteroid and what seems to be the deepest part of it. The Leonin, whose player was having some issues at the time, we did manage to help him solve in the next week session, grabs up a dwarf arguing with an elf, demanding answers. Essentially, by the way, this was that player's kind of attempt at trying to get his character killed doing something. Yeah, don't worry about it. Anyway, we managed to convince the dwarf to just simply give us the information we were looking for, paying him a few bit of gold coin just to shut him up. The dwarf informs us that this is the lowest part of the Rock of Braille, and in order to actually get to the higher parts, you actually have to have a pass. And the only way for you to get it that would be for you to have a sponsor to get to the highest level. Meaning that we would have to somehow impress one of the, if not multiple, of the local gangs that actually ran the Rock of Braille, as it seems to be more of a sort of asteroid port run by different gangs and pirate lords. At the center, a casino where all the different dealings and kind of back room business was held. But you would need to get an invitation to even be able to go to the casino. which required you to at least impress one of the different gang leaders. Having attained this information, we started looking around, realizing we couldn't figure out how to get anywhere. Everything is not written common. It's written in astral, some kind of foreign space language, in which means that not a single one of us could read any of the signs, let alone tell what any of these stores were. Hex, rolling high enough on an investigation/perception check, is able to find what appears to be a bookstore from the sound of rustling pages and what he detects to be something of the traces of ink. Outside of the store, it looks pretty beaten up and banged up as the rest of the lower part of Rock of Braille. Your average shady bookstore in the middle of nowhere. However, as Hex enters, the facade of back alley crappiness falls away. The inside is in fact an immaculately kept up bookshop. Walls of scrolls, books, and tomes and maps all align the shop. And the shop itself almost seems endless to say. On a simple wooden desk, well cleaned and taken care of, is a simple bell to ring for service. My character Hex dings the bell a few times to try and see if he can get somebody's attention. An elderly drow appears from behind one of the bookshelves. "Yes, young man, can I help you?" Hex exclaims, "Yes, we're having trouble trying to read the signs. I'm afraid we don't know Astral or whatever the space language is. Do you have Astral to common anywhere?" The charming elf laughs a little bit and more of a, "Sorry, I can't really do English James Bond voice." It seems to be more of what this character would be. However, the drow simply explains that he doesn't have Astral to common, but if Hex knew somebody that could speak Elvish, he could gladly sell us an Astral to Elvish book. Hex pops his head out the door of the bookstore for a second and calls over Bear Silver. There, Bear Silver and Hex manage to haggle with the old man, who agrees to let them buy the book, Astral to Elvish for Dummies, for 60 gold, and he'll throw in some maps and bits of parchment. After paying for the book and the parchment, the rest of the party finally arrive into the store. Nightshade buys some schematics for shotguns, and the others do a bit of shopping here and there, but nothing too important or interesting per se. However, due to Nightshade's looking for schematics, we learned that this is definitely not your average bookshop. As after Nightshade literally asks for shotgun schematics, the entire back of the bookshop just expands almost infinitely, with various doors, ladders, and stairs leading to various levels of the entire shop. An almost endless expanse of books, tomes, knowledge, and various forms of, well, just everything. Once, of course, we got everything we wanted, we asked the old man if he might know about where we could find some cloaks and a good place to stay. The old drow manages to tell us that we should check out Malcolm's Magic Emporium if we're looking for clothing, and as far as a nice inn to stay at, he suggested an inn run by an elderly kitsune. We thank the old man and leave the shop. As we leave, we realize that something is wrong. The once bustling streets are now empty. We turn to see the shop, but we find nothing but an empty hole. We are then surrounded by drow in shady gear, in cloaks and dagger, wearing masks bearing a red moon on their face. One of the elves holds a blade to Hex's face and says, "How did you find it? Who are you?" Hex simply said, "We were just looking for a bookstore." The dark elf young man curses and proclaims that everything in that shop is his by right, and that the old man can't hide from him forever. He informs the group that if they should ever know or find a way to find that store again, they should inform him immediately, and he would pay them well for the information. And then suddenly he and his group disappear, and with a sound like glass shattering and breaking, the party finds themselves once again in the middle of a busy street. Hex and more than a few of the other party members pretty much at this point just not had enough of this, just decides to go to the inn. The Leonin and Bear Silver head over to Malcolm's Magic Emporium, seeking out cloaks to help make themselves less conspicuous. Once we arrive in the inn, we ring the bell, and a young child of a kitsune appears on the desk, asking us if we were looking for services. We explained that yes, we are looking for rooms, and that we are adventurers trying to find some place to stay for the night. The little girl perks up and is very happy to hear about adventurers, her own parents being adventurers no less. She wants us to start telling her about stories about our adventures, and Hex starts trying to oblige the little one, until her grandmother appears from behind from the desk, exclaiming that no stories for you, as it seems that the elder kitsune does not want her granddaughter learning anything or getting any ideas about being an adventurer. She simply tells us that it'll be a few copper per room, and Hex pays her 20 gold. Enough to rent rooms in the inn for about a month. The elder kitsune responds, "Are you sure? This is enough for a month, you know." "Yes," Hex responds. "After all, we don't know how long we're going to be here, so at least paying down for a month should keep us at least a good place to stay for a good while." The elderly kitsune laughs and chuckles a little bit and hands us our keys and directs us to an elevator. "Your rooms will be on the other side of that elevator. Don't worry. It will automatically take you to wherever you need to go. And if you wish, there's a bathhouse in the rooms behind me. That way you can clean up a little bit if you'd like." Hex thanks her for all the information, and the rest of the party retire to their rooms, falling asleep for about 48 hours. Meanwhile, the Leonin and Bear Silver find their way to Malcolm's Magic Emporium. The moment that they open the door, they are immediately hit with a collage of incense and perfume, coated in the stuff essentially. Now smelling very much of lavender, lilac, and who knows what else, they walked into the building and sought for the patron of the establishment. A giddy gnome appears, calling himself Malcolm, and asks the two what they are there for. They explain that they would like to get some inconspicuous clothing if they could. Malcolm himself actually laughs and says that, believe it or not, on the Rock of Braille, it's better to have more conspicuous clothing than inconspicuous. In fact, if anything, the more shady you try to be, the more you tend to stand out. He and his pixie assistants then grab up the Leonin and our wood elf and proceed to create whole new outfits for them. Fine garments made from silk stolen from the Astral Empire, as it turns out that Malcolm himself explains that he was once a very daring adventurer, and he had managed to steal quite a lot of this stuff in the past. So he'll only charge them about 15 gold. The ranger is dressed in a fine ranger's outfit, with more than enough room to hide his bow and various other weapons. The Leonin is given more of a Middle Eastern outfit of blue, and a nice turban with sandals, with more than enough space to be able to hide his swords beneath a billowing cloak. As they exit the building, they proceed to head their way to the inn, only to be greeted by literally every brothel on that part of the Rock of Braille. The ladies of the night have decided to take an interest in our Leonin friend as well as our wood elf, as they keep trying to refuse them and trying to turn them down. Suddenly, them trying to get away causes a massive fight, as literally every single madam within 100 miles tries to court them into being customers. As they make a mad dash for the inn, they are hounded by women of the night, clamoring to get them to spend the night with them rather than others. Even the local guard essentially having to step in. Eventually, by the time they reach the inn, Bear Silver and our Leonin friend are a bit disheveled. The turban has started to unwind itself, and he is, well, missing a sandal. And amongst the chaos, as they were trying to run away, an interesting little letter popped out of one of their sleeves, exclaiming that they should be notified that almost every single shop on the Rock of Braille is almost certainly owned by some legendary adventurer or another. Plus, it also notes that there is a special enchantment on their garment, which allows them to have a more charismatic approach to them. But as our friends begin to try and tidy themselves and speak to Hex, they are immediately grabbed up by silken ribbons and taken up into the roof of the inn. There to be greeted by a room full of lovely Kitsune women, offering fine food, liquor, and a good time for the night. Of which Bear Silver and our Leonin friend feel all but obliged to enjoy. By the next day, about 12 hours later, as the Wood Elf and our Leonin friend manage to peel themselves away from the lovely ladies, they inform Hex about Malcolm and his shop. Wanting to see this for himself, Hex goes with Bear Silver, who brings him to Malcolm. The giddy gnome finds it rather amusing that a robot is looking for some better garb than his old military gear. The pixie assistants once again toss off the old clothing behind a curtain, and Malcolm's Magic Emporium becomes Malcolm's Pimp My Bot, as he brings in various tool sets and a drill to start working on poor Hex. Parts start flying, my character starts screeching and going, "Holy crap, what are you doing with that thing?" As all Bear Silver can hear is clanking of hammers, drills, and, well, bits flying everywhere. Even at one time, the gnome bringing about a drill about half his own size into the mix, causing a rather loud scream from Hex. However, by the time it was all said and done, when Hex finally was allowed to emerge from behind the curtain, the dungy, dreary old warbot was transformed into a more glorious Schwarzenegger bot than ever before, complete with fully functional RGB muscles, a helmet, and glorious sigils all placed upon his chest. The old warbot had quite the upgrade. Yes, that's why I said pimp my bot. Imagine going in as someone very drungy and then coming out as muscle-bound, handsome Squidward, okay? That's what happened to Hex. Hex himself at that point had become unrecognizable to anybody that wasn't there. In fact, my character got a nice little bonus to his wisdom and his charisma. A permanent one, no less. +1 to wisdom and +1 to charisma, if you're wondering. He and Bear Silver finally make their way back to the inn after Hex has gotten his overhaul. There they go to wake their companions who had not yet even seen them. Almost utterly disguised by their new outfits, we decided to play a little prank on our fellow players on the behest of our DM. Portraying ourselves as being tax collectors and finally revealing ourselves at the end, only taking a mere pittance, just enough to pay for our new outfits, from the Roman no less, who seemed to be Mr. Moneybags at the time. Sorry, I'm being kittied. The kitty demands attention. Meow. Say hello to your adoring fan, Moonpie. Yes. Meow. Good boy. At this point, we managed to inform the rest of our party as to what's going on. We've also learned of a new job going about. It seems that one of the gang's leader's sister has been kidnapped, and he's looking for someone to try and find her. It is at this point that our little party decides to make their way straight to the Blue Moon Gang's territory to obtain permission to go on this quest. At this point, then, we had made sure that the entire party had gone to Malcolm's Magic Emporium, which means that everyone has now the most fancy, opulent get-up possible. And we started right in looking like we were straight from the meme of Dr. Lively. Sorry, brain was malfunctioning. Yes, we walked into the Blue Moon territory as though we were doing the funk, with everybody maxed out to the bit. We were introduced to the elevator we needed to go, and we're taken up. As this video is already about almost 30 minutes long, I'm gonna cut it here, guys. It's been pretty interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below.